But if you lead with the psychology first, there's two core needs, and this kind of gets into the Brene Brown and the Daring Greatly and stuff. But you're familiar with this core 6 human needs, right?
Yeah.
And 2 of them are significance. I want to feel special. You want to feel special. What's in it for you? And then the second thing is connection. You want to know that your life's more than just like us sitting in a park here, right?
Yeah.
And so what we do is the underpinning of everything we do and everything that I think everybody should be doing when it comes to retention and referrals, making people feel special and significant and connected to a brand bigger than themselves, right?
What's up, everybody? This is Sam Taggart with the D2D podcast, and we are sitting in a park in Humble, Texas, doing a humble podcast simply because it was an ad lib, off the whim cuff, and I'm with a good friend, James Rushing. And before I dive in, we're actually both going to closer school this week. He's coming out, and we've been life friends for like, what, 5, 6, 7 years, so a long time.
Think about Guatemala, and I know you just got back like today.
Yeah, 5 years ago, James and I went to Guatemala with the mastermind group, and I just got back today. I'm literally on a layover from Guatemala City to Houston doing this podcast. Then I fly out at 8:30 tonight to get to Utah, and I was like, you know, James, let's go to dinner and do a podcast. So
we're going to dinner, but we're going to be in Las Vegas together tomorrow.
Yeah,
anyway.
literally in a day. Tomorrow night we fly to Vegas. But long story short, I've been working with James recently on, he runs a company called the Retention Experts, and you know, he was in Cutco World and built the trade show team and a 1,200 person referral based business, and really built systems around how to get referrals, how to generate more business through gifting, through upselling, through repeat business. And I think a lot of people in our space in the direct sales world haven't mastered it as much as the Cutco guys, because I remember Asim, when he came out to work for me, he was like, dude, imagine doing what you do, but not allowed to knock doors. And if you don't get referrals, you're out of business.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And so had other couple people like John Israel and who else on the podcast that have done kind of some thank you Cutco-y rooted guys. But I think this is like the fact that you have a business now helping companies and sales reps to help them with their training and or their retention and upsell and referral business is pretty cool. So thanks for being on the show.
I'll tell you a funny story real quick. So we're all in that mastermind with John Israel, right?
Yeah.
And I think a year before you and I had met, he told me to read Brene Brown in Daring Greatly. Have you ever?
Yeah, great book.
Okay. So what she writes about in one part of Daring Greatly is like in the darkest moments of humanity, it's a disconnect and a struggle for your worthiness. And I read that and I was like, dude, that's why I do what I do. Like, we all have our businesses because they make money, they make impact, like they're actually like making a difference in the world.
Yeah.
But we all have our personal lives. And I was like, oh, I'm not necessarily helping people retain or like grow referrals. I'm literally helping people feel like they actually matter and they have a reason that their life actually matters.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll get into it a little bit. You know, there's a little equation we'll talk about.
Yeah. You were telling me data plus psychology plus gifting equals incremental revenue, right? So it's like, and it's so funny because I look at today, like we deliver a good product and we get referrals, and I'm like, but I still feel like we're leaving so much meat on the bone, and then hence why we started a conversation. But like, how many solar, roofing, pest, alarm guys that are knocking doors don't even think the referral game? And what strategies, I guess, first, what do you mean by this equation? Tell us about it.
So I think like at the end of an install and an account, you know, you're trying to maintain the account for a year 2 contract, maybe a solar company's got their install done, a roof, you know, it's pretty common to give a gift, right? At the end of it, say thank you, stuff like that. But I think what happens, Sam, is like, I don't know, let's just say you do 200 roofing jobs or 200 gifts a year, $100, you're like, this $20,000 expense to my business, like, why are we really doing this? It's like, well, everybody's doing it, so we do it. But what happens is that psychology piece, right? So it's kind of the art and science, right? Yeah. But if you lead with the psychology first, there's two core needs, and this kind of gets into the Brene Brown and the Daring Greatly and stuff. But you're familiar with this core 6 human needs, right?
Yeah.
And 2 of them are significance. I want to feel special. You want to feel special. What's in it for you? And then the second thing is connection. You want to know that your life's more than just like us sitting in a park here, right?
Yeah.
And so what we do is the underpinning of everything we do and everything that I think everybody should be doing when it comes to retention and referrals, making people feel special and significant and connected to a brand bigger than themselves. Right?
I think a lot of times we think so transactional. And how do I change my own, as a sales rep or a business owner, to think less transactional and think a little bit more connection, a little bit more relationship-based?
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you walk around going like, hey, my clients, my prospects want to feel important, and it's about your prospect, not as much about you. You help them get what they want. Like Zig Ziglar talked about this, right? Like, help enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want ultimately. Yeah. But it's altruist. It's altruistic, right?
Yeah.
And so if you keep that psychology in mind, there's something called the law of reciprocity. Ever heard of that one?
Yeah.
You do something nice for somebody else, they want to reciprocate. So that's where the gifting actually comes in. It's not just to give the gift, right? Like, it's actually to appreciate somebody, to say I appreciate you. And then there's an emotional priming that after the job's done, the account's sold, and now you're in retention. Like, you're not on front-end acquisition, you're now on back-end retention and engagement. If you include all of that psychology in that, now they feel special, they feel taken care of, and they will help you grow your business.
Yeah.
So one of the things, we work with a solar company out in Florida, and they, I think maybe later we may talk about like how to keep accounts from canceling and like the actual retention, which we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But what we did was we actually journey mapped where people are excited and where they're not as excited through the whole like account cycle.
Yeah.
More psychology though.
That makes total sense. So, like, let's kind of walk through that. So, I'm selling solar, roofing, maybe bigger ticket.
Yep.
What, as a sales rep, can I do to, generate more referrals? Let's go the referral game through kind of gifting or customer appreciation and retention. And we'll get to retention in a second. But just to get more referrals, like, what strategies have you seen? What could I be doing as a sales rep to get better at that?
Yeah, so from the sales rep, not from the company side, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so as a sales rep side, with the solar company in Florida, the other thing we did was like, you need to sit down in your presentation and like be somebody's son, be somebody's father, be somebody's brother, mother, and tell your story of how you got into alarms, how you got into pests, how you got into solar, how you got into roofing, and be a person.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, when I was selling door to door, I had that blue book and it was like my mom, my sister, hey, I'm doing this to pay for school. I had that like big why.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that though, Sam, was like, I wasn't just trying to sell that account. I actually told every client for every single appointment for 7 years, Sam, my biggest goal isn't that you buy today. It's just that you like me enough to introduce me to a few more people like Susie did. But we're going to worry about that at the end. Is that okay?
Yeah, that kind
so
of primes
that seed,
they're
primed, stuff like that, right? But then I had a goal. I was always working for a scholarship. And I'll be damned, I was number 2 for 2 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
You've probably always been number 1, so you don't know that feeling. But
I've been there.
So I always had that goal, though, right? And that was kind of the point. It wasn't necessarily to be number 1. It was to give that client, like, let's be a part of something together.
Yeah.
And even if the goal, Sam, was like, I need to sell 5 accounts this month because I'm in a competition with Jonathan, and we go back and forth every single week, every single month, and, D2D Experts has this amazing leaderboard, and, like, I'm just tired of us going back and forth. So I tell you what, Sam, whether you buy today or not, like, if you sign up, it's going to help me with that leaderboard and that competition. But even if you don't buy, man, just introducing me, like, everybody loves Sam. You probably know your neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll do that at the end, though. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the pricing. We'll run the specs. I'll show you how this is actually going to save you money. But it's too early to tell. I don't know if it's going to be a good fit for you or not. And I know every industry has their own scripting at this point.
Yeah.
But that's kind of your transition into your demo.
I like introduce me more than referral. Because it's like people get asked for referrals or somebody to reference them all the time, and it's like I can't think of anybody. It's like, but can you make an introduction? And then it tees you up for them putting a group text together or them putting an email or whatever.
The email, the intro text,
yeah,
right? Like the script part of
I'm not just looking for names, I'm looking for introductions.
Yeah, introductions.
Who
do you know that I should know?
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
And then, there's a data part of this equation, right? So it's psychology, data, and then unique gifting. The data is like, who do you know that I need to know? And it's like, who are your connectors, right? So I think a lot of times we just go door knock, and we're looking at the nice house or the American flag or one of my favorite things is like, who do you know that owns a turret on their house? Because that's obviously disposable income. But I think when you add the data side, it's like, who are your HOA owners, like the boards, that know everybody? Or Mrs. Jones, who do you know that like throws the kids' parties for your school?
Okay.
Who do you know that like has kids at private schools? Because I want my children to be really educated one day. And so you start tying these things that are actually Sam being a person, where Mr. Jones wants to help Sam. And it's way less about the guy that just knocked on my door is now asking me for referrals.
And you're super specific about it too.
You got to know what you want.
It's not like who do you know that lives.
Yeah.
It's who do you know that throws the party for the school. Immediately
because they know everybody.
Yeah, and then it connects you to the connectors.
Yeah.
Because they're not everybody's a huge connector, but if they can connect you to the connectors, then those connectors connect you to more connectors, and that's where you start to get.
And then you're sitting in AC and you're like calling people to set appointments. You're not outdoor knocking in the freaking 97-degree heat all summer long.
I love the reframe.
Or the cold.
What's the reframe you had around door to door? Like you're like, hey, if this would blow their minds if they thought about it this way. With the appointments.
Well, I came up in an industry in the direct selling association where like we just didn't go door to door. Like I was just always taught referrals from the very beginning, and somebody was like, here's a text. It's gonna say, hey, you need to meet Sam. He's super cool. He's working towards a goal, and you just need to meet him. Meeting him will help support him. And all I needed was that in the door with the goal, and then the sales process took care of itself.
Yeah.
So my reframe was, I'm trying to meet the most qualified prospects that want to help James as a person. I wasn't there to sell.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they want to help me, and I'm selling a great product, so naturally they buy because they needed it. They just didn't know they needed it until they sat down and got to know me.
Yeah, and I love the approach of, like you said, I was taught this from the beginning in the referral game, so all you knew was the referral game. You didn't think doors, where all we've been taught is doors. And so it's like, what if you just said, hey guys, you're going to get so many referrals to the point where you have an assistant calling the referrals to get appointments set for you. You don't have a door-to-door setter. You have a referral setter.
You have a referral setter now.
You have a referral setter now because you're so good at getting a list of names and introductions to where literally it takes two of you to manage all of your pipeline. And I talk to like some of the best solar, the best roofing guys. They don't knock very much. Like,
right.
I hate to break it to you, but like these guys have such a good book of business. Like when he said my book of business is 1,200 people, that means his book. Like those are giving him referrals. Those are repeat buyers. Those are a database that he's optimized to then not have to sit there and be like, who am I going to next? What do I do today? It's like, no, I have a real clear action item list of what I should be doing today because I'm not out of prospects. I actually have really hot prospects, which is a referral, versus...
Well, it got even hotter than that, though. Like, I literally got the system down to where it was like, hey, is it cool if he reaches out to you or not?
Wow.
And I literally would only sit down with people that said, yes, call me.
So there's like basically pre-bought.
Sam, I could set 15 to 20 appointments a week this way with people that only said, yes, I want to see James.
That's crazy. And you're selling
week
such
after
a
week
small,
after week, $1,000 at a time.
Yeah.
And the people listening to this right now are selling
$30,000.
$30,000.
Yeah, $20,000 stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, it blows my mind. And you know, it's funny. So Adam Shantz, he'd be the guy, and I say this publicly, probably the best door knocker I've ever heard of. And you know, he did 220 alarms in a week. And everybody's like, how do you do that many alarms in a week? And it's like, impossible. Like, do the
Right.
math. How many
Yeah.
people would I have to talk to get
Yeah.
to that many deals? And it's like, he just got referral after referral after referral. He was calling people on the phone, sending the text, do the paperwork. Like, it was just, he was like, my phone.
Massive action,
Yeah,
like beyond comprehension.
Yeah, and it just, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. They were calling me wanting to sign up at that point where he just had this momentum. So now let's shift gears. And if you're listening to this, guys, like, people ask, like, Sam, if you were out full-time knocking again, what would have you done different? And I would have taken more time and energy to invest in a referral system than, whatever, I'll just go to the next door and just be a good door-to-door guy. I'd like to have both skill sets really strong.
It's one of those things where, like, a good system takes a little bit of effort to set up.
Yes.
But then, like, one of the things we do, like, when we work with a company, there's 3 pillars of what we do, and the third one is sustainable and scalable systems.
Yeah.
So it's everything has a system.
Yeah.
Your scripts is a system. People don't think of it that way. Your CRM marketing is a system.
Yeah.
So it's just fine-tuning, like, here's who I am, here's my goal, I'm gonna ask you for referrals, here's your referral script, and here's the text that you send.
Yep.
And then you just do that over and over and over again.
Yeah. I love that. So what's like, okay, so I sell a deal and I've got 6 weeks or 3 months or something for it
You
to
have
get
an install
installed.
period.
Yeah. And a lot of times competitors come by and swoop it, or a customer gets cold feet because they look up something, talk to a friend or whatever. Do you have a strategy to retain that person through that pipeline?
You ever spilled coffee on your shirt?
I don't drink coffee.
I don't drink coffee. You ever spilled
Hot
something on your
chocolate,
shirt?
yeah,
Hot
yeah.
chocolate. Okay, cool. You spilled hot chocolate on your shirt,
Yeah.
right? You walk into a room, what's the first thing you do is Sam with hot chocolate on your shirt?
Apologize for the chocolate on my shirt.
You tell them, hey, I have hot chocolate on my shirt.
Yeah, I make it known.
Is any jerk going to be like, Sam, you have hot chocolate on your shirt?
No.
No. So where I'm going with this is if you tell somebody what to expect, then nothing goes outside of how you tell them what to expect.
Yeah.
So what do I mean by this? Let's use solar, because we know solar has one of the longest install periods of anything else.
Well,
right?
heck, Windows lately has been super long.
Because of the delays, right?
Yeah.
So if I tell a client Windows are on back order, and here's what to expect, and then I chunk that down, let's use solar, because this is a really simple example. We know in solar, and the listeners can take whatever industry they're in, if you have take the long period of time and break it down into smaller chunks. So let's use solar, right? What do you have? You have a sales process.
Yep.
Then there's finance, and those happen real quickly together.
Yep.
Then what do you have to do? You have to do a permit,
or site survey,
permitting, install,
PTO.
getting it all online,
Yeah.
and then there's probably a warranty period, right?
Yeah.
That whole thing can be 3 or 4 months. But we just listed how many things?
5 things.
5 things. Take that and break that down into a smaller chunk and never tell them it's going to take 3 months. Be like, hey, there's 4 stages. And then tell them the stages.
Okay.
And the funniest thing is, like, Sam, you've sold 200, 250 accounts in a year, right? You know that process. They know when I sell my product or my service, this is what has to happen every single time.
Yeah.
And tell me, in a solar install, where do people get cold feet?
Is when things don't go where they think they're supposed to go.
So if I tell you where it's going to go, there's no it doesn't go where I think it's going to go.
Yeah.
It goes right where I told you it's going to go as we're signing the paper.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest tips I can say is have that journey, because it's highs and lows.
Yeah.
And you know as the rep what's a high and what's a low. And you also know at the high what a client's probably going to think, and you know at a low what a client's going to think, because you do this so much.
Yeah.
So a great example is permitting. I've signed my financing, I've had my job site done. Where are my panels? And that's where a lot of clients fall off the train.
Yeah.
When nothing's happening that they can see. So it's important that you tell them ahead of time, hey, here's the high, here's the low, and you're probably going to get frustrated right here.
Okay.
And when you get frustrated, because it happens, here's exactly what I want you to do.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And you tell them what to do, who to call, what to say when they're frustrated, when they're going to get frustrated, and then the company itself should be checking in with the client. when you know they're probably going to get frustrated.
Yeah, it's like you have the cadence set up. Yeah,
and you have it mapped, you have the cadence, and now you just scale this over X amount of accounts a year.
Yeah.
And here's where the gifting can come in,
Okay.
right? So we have psychology of connection. We have data of who your connectors are and when the good time is to appreciate them. Now you have the unique gifting piece. This is the reciprocity piece. So if I told you you're probably going to be a little frustrated right here, and a gift shows up within a week or two,
then it's like,
I just brought your low to a high, and now we're out here talking about that. So the conversation isn't, oh man, Sam's windows and doors or Sam's solar, little alliteration here or there, right? Was such a long process. Now it's Sam told me what was going to happen, when I was going to get frustrated, what I was going to think, and sent me a gift because he knew I was probably going to be frustrated then.
Yeah.
What's your experience after the panels are installed? What are you doing now?
This company's on the ball. They get it. They deliver what they say they're going to do.
And who are you telling that to?
Your friends.
Friends, family, stuff like that. Now the gift though goes into a referral setting. So when they're entertaining, they're doing the summer barbecues, the holidays, the cooking, there's a gift that has your name, number, and logo on there, and you're for the next 5-10 years using that piece 2 or 3 times a week, thinking about that experience. Every time you use that gift, you're thinking about Sam's company.
So when you're talking gift, you're talking Cutco.
Just anything. We have a gifting system. We talked about systems, right? So Cutco's a good example, but we're agnostic to the gift. You want it to be in a referral setting, gender neutral, highly used, and involve their inner circle. So if you're gifting in a business setting, inner circle means executive assistant, so it's taking care of Jess, that's taking care of your family, and making sure the people that support you are taken care of.
Okay.
In a residential setting, inner circle is going to be their family.
So what are some of the things you've seen that have worked well?
So our 2 favorite right now are Cutco. So we do about half of our gifts are Cutco, and it's thanks for spreading the word on a little spatula spreader.
Oh, okay.
And then your logo and your number. And then we also have a vendor refresh glass. They're wine bottles that are cut down into drink glasses. So remember when we were talking about psychology, we were talking about like connection and meaning?
Yeah.
They're actually on a mission to rescue over 10 million wine bottles, and it's all green and it's all upcycled.
Oh, cool.
So like for Taggart, we would just put a T on there, and at the end of the month, every account you sold, they get a custom letter for their name, and we just drop ship it all.
Oh, so it just
So if you had 200 accounts as a company, we would drop ship all that for you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's your system.
That's awesome. So one of the things that you do with companies and you're doing with us is to help strategize that system.
Yeah.
Because most sales reps, your time and energy is spent knocking, selling, doing your thing, right? And company owners, you got a million fish to fry. But it's like if you could get 10% more deals by just having a system, how much income would that be to you that maybe you're missing out on? And that's like the big part.
So let's take something really simple, right?
Yeah.
Like a solar rep, you're trying to sell 4 or 5 accounts a month.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're at 4 and you sell a 5th one, that's 10%, 20%.
And if you're good, you're doing 30 a month, and that's 3 or 4
3 or
months.
4 more, and you make how much a deal?
Anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000.
Okay, so if you were to sell like 3 more accounts a month, that's 15 grand more of revenue.
Yeah.
Every month.
Stupid.
From your lowest hanging fruit, we're talking $150,000 more, and referrals are easier to work with.
So how do they find you if they're interested in working with you?
So our website's super easy. It's just growretention.com.
Oh, that's a good...
So it's the retention experts on all of our social media handles, Instagram, Facebook, the retention experts. And then the website is just growretention.com.
Cool. So, guys, James Rushing, this has been like super helpful. Like I said, I'm passionate about this. It's something that I have not been good at, hence why James and I work together in this. It's like, I know that 10% increase is worth a lot of money, and I think that most people need to start thinking that way. The more you get into business and the more you start to study sales, you're like, wow, I just grew up in one bubble. There's other bubbles out there. So guys, go check his stuff out. I appreciate you guys. Hope you see you on the next podcast, checking out our future events. We got Recruiting Summit coming up October 20th in LA. We got business boot camp coming up, so August 15th, 16th. So if you guys are checking out some of the stuff coming up on the horizon, hit us up. Happy to share what we got going on. So thanks a ton, James.
Yeah.
Good man.
I'll see you at close of school.
I know. I'll see you in 2 days.
Weekend.
Yeah, this weekend. Okay, peace.